Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you all are having a great holiday season. We are getting ready to ring in the new year. We got some playoff football to talk about here. The Buffalo Bills are in the playoffs, and we're going to sit down here once again and break down the four wild card games coming up this wild card weekend. And we are going to start in the NFC. We have probably the biggest long shot of the playoffs, if I had to put that label on anybody. The Philadelphia Eagles playing host to the Seattle Seahawks. The Eagles are 9-7. The Seahawks, I believe, are 11-5, if I'm not mistaken. The Eagles are pretty banged up. A lot of injuries they've had to deal with this season, and not a lot of people are giving them a chance. So, for the sake of argument, what's the case that could be made for the Eagles to pull off an upset in Seattle?
Well, the Eagles are a tough out at home. The game is in Philadelphia, and they are a tough out there. Russell Wilson does not have a great road record in the playoffs. On the other hand, Seattle has been a better team on the road this year than at home. So I don't know that there is a strong case for the Eagles, but the home field advantage and the fact that Carson Wentz is a little bit of a wild card and can make some plays probably is about the best thing you can say about him.
Yeah, Carson Wentz has been playing pretty well the last couple weeks. He finished strong. He finished the season pretty strong, I would say.
Yes, he did.
And Boston Scott is running pretty well in the stead of Miles Sanders, but they definitely miss Sanders, and they sorely miss Alshon Jeffrey in the passing game. But I think if Carson Wentz can play well and this kind of ragtag group of wide receivers that they have doesn't cost them with drops like they have been earlier in the season, and the Eagles might have a chance. That being said, though, I don't think it will be enough to beat the Seahawks. Russell Wilson has been playing out of his mind this season. He's been playing really well, and like you said, Seattle's been a much better road team this year than they have been at home. I'm picking Philadelphia to be one and done. I think the Seahawks win this game.
I do too. I think the Seahawks win the game unless they get a bunch of possessions from the 1 yard line, and then they're going to be in big trouble.
Yep, still haven't figured that out. Let's move on to the early Sunday game, which is the Minnesota Vikings heading over to the Superdome to play Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints, who have been a team on a mission. The Saints have been a team on a mission after getting hosed out of the playoffs last season, and they could not have had the deck stacked harder against them when Drew Brees went out with an early season injury. But they're here, they're 13-3, and they're looking really good.
Yeah, they are looking really good. They excuse me, they should be the number 2 seed had Seattle done the right thing at the end of that San Francisco game. Breeze is playing great. Michael Thomas is the best receiver in football. They look tough. Their defense looks even pretty good. I don't know. To me, the key to this game comes down to one matchup, and that's Kirk Cousins versus Drew Brees. Who would you rather have?
I'd rather have Drew Brees. Obviously, the popular talking point around the league, Kirk Cousins, not very good in big game situations. He's 1-4 this year against teams with above 500 record, and not that this matters, but still winless on Monday Night Football. He hasn't been a great big game quarterback. The Saints also have Alvin Kamara back healthy, which is a huge boost for that offense, who's kind of been a one-trick pony with Drew Brees and Michael Thomas playing as well as they have. I like Minnesota's defense. I believe if there's a case to be made for them to win this game, it's on that side of the ball. But I just think this Saints team is just going to be too much.
Well, I love the way the Saints are playing. I think it's going to take a really good team playing a really good game to beat them, and I don't think Minnesota is it.
I agree. I'm picking the Saints in this one. Moving on to the AFC, we have the Tennessee Titans, who had to win and get in Week 17 to sneak into the 6th seed. They won and they're in, but they have to play the Tom Brady-led New England Patriots, who are coming off unarguably the lowest point of the season for them, a Week 17 loss to the Miami Dolphins, which, as a Bills fan, really makes me smile.
I can say the same thing. I will say this. One thing, Saturday night playoff games in Foxborough always bring back memories of the Tuck game, and
Yeah.
if anybody watched that game or remembers it, they know what a cool scene that was, playing in a blizzard, and a night game in a blizzard, and that was really cool. I don't know what the weather's going to be like in Foxborough this week, but I'll always think of that game when I watch the Patriots play on a Saturday night.
Is there a chance for Tennessee to win this thing, do you think?
Well, I will just say this. I don't think there's a chance for Tennessee to win. I think they have a puncher's chance, and that's about it. But New England is kind of like the Bills, and it means their defense is really tough and keeps them in every game, but their offense is also very poor and keeps the other team in every game. So I think it'll be probably a little bit closer to game than people think. I do see the Patriots winning, probably with a little bit of a fourth quarter surge and maybe winning by 10 points or around there. Ryan Tannehill's a little bit of a wild card, but I just don't think. I remember that game the Bills played against Tennessee, and I know it's Tannehill instead of Mariota, but I just don't see the Titans having enough offense to beat them, and unless Derrick Henry runs wild, but teams have had a tough time running on the Patriots.
The key for the Patriots, I think, is turnovers. They have to take the ball away. Their bread and butter this season has been creating turnovers and creating short fields for this very limited Tom Brady offense. They have not been doing that the past couple weeks. They didn't do it against the Bills and kind of got away with it, but they failed to force a turnover against Miami, and they paid dearly for it, and it cost them the first round bye. So if the Patriots are going to win this game, and if they're going to try to make another run at the Super Bowl, they got to go back to winning the turnover battle and creating short fields for Tom Brady to take advantage of. On the other side of the ball, I look to Tennessee. You're right, Tannehill's a bit of a wild card, and their defense has kind of gone downhill. But they are a big play offense. They're capable of big explosive plays, and Derrick Henry has got to get going. If Derrick Henry is running, that's a hard offense to stop. But I'm with you. I think the Patriots probably squeak this one out, but then I don't know. It's hard to see this Patriots team stack up against the Baltimores or the Kansas Cities of this league.
Well, I'll say right off, the Patriots are not going back to the Super Bowl this year. I don't think they can win in Kansas City or in Baltimore. So unless they get a stroke of luck and don't have to play one of those two teams on the road, then they're going to be out. And I mean, I think they're probably going to win Saturday, but
Well, they have to.
that would send them to Kansas City. And I don't think they can win there.
Yeah, if they get by Tennessee, which I just think is a tough game, they have to go to Kansas City,
Right.
and that is a tough place to play, even in the regular season, much less a divisional playoff game against a team who's already beaten you.
Right.
That
It's no coincidence that the Patriots have lost to essentially the three best teams in the AFC. They've lost to Houston. They've lost to Kansas City, and they've lost to Baltimore. I mean, I know that they had a gaudy record, but their record is much like the Bills. It's a product of their schedule. They played the same week schedule that the Bills did.
Yeah. Speaking of the Bills, they will be kicking off the NFL 2020 playoffs in Houston against Deshaun Watson and the Texans. This is a big game, obviously. The Buffalo Bills, bit of an unfamiliar situation. They had a chance to sit their starters down in Week 17, give them a little bit of a rest. Josh Allen only played one series against the New York Jets, but I'm curious to see how the Bills and Sean McDermott respond to kind of this extra period of preparation that they've had.
Well, I think I'm not expecting the Bills to be intimidated by the moment. I mean, Sean McDermott, Leslie Frazier have coached in many playoff games. Now, the Bills players don't have a lot of that experience, but I don't expect them to be intimidated by the moment. I think they will rise to the occasion. I think they will play well. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. For Houston, big Big news as far as injuries are concerned. It is looking like Will Fuller is going to be in action for this game. And if that's the case, with Buffalo potentially missing Levi Wallace, that could be a big addition for this Houston team.
That's a big factor. Fuller is a tough, good straight line runner who gets downfield and really expands their passing game. Wallace is a solid player. I don't really think that the Bills lose a lot with Kevin Johnson in the game. But then you got to look at who comes in after that. I don't know that Saron Neal is up to it, or if they're going to even activate Jaquan Johnson, or who that third cornerback is going to be if Wallace can't go.
Maybe they'll call on Isaiah McKenzie again.
Yeah, well, stranger things have happened, I suppose. But that's where that matchup really kind of hurts the Bills. I think Kevin Johnson and Levi Wallace are probably about the same player, but that third guy coming in is probably going to be a little bit of there might have some problems there.
Yeah. I like the way I like the Buffalo pass rush, how they match up against this Houston offensive line, which has not been that good this season. Deshaun Watson has been running for his life a lot throughout the course of this season. So I like the way this Buffalo pass rush matches up against them. But I'm not concerned about the defensive side of the ball, because I think this Buffalo defense can stack up against just about anybody in the league.
I agree with that. The defense can stop, and the Houston offense is not great. They're a fair running team, but they're they're kind of like the Bills. Their running statistics are inflated a little bit by the fact that the quarterback is pretty dynamic out of the pocket.
They rely a lot on the big plays by DeAndre Hopkins and to Will Fuller, and Buffalo's strength of this defense is their secondary. So if they can shut that down, they have a very good chance of holding this Houston team.
The Hopkins-Tre'Davious White matchup should be fun to watch.
That'll be fun to watch for sure. For me, this all comes down to the offensive side of the ball for the Bills. We talk about it every week. The party line for this Bills offense is, can they do enough? You know, we kind of take for granted at this point that the Bills' defense will be able to hold teams. It's all about, can Josh Allen do enough and make enough plays to put them in front at the end. I mean, you look at this. You talked about being intimidated by the moment. I'll be curious to see how Josh Allen responds to being in his first playoff game, because you saw back in Week 4 he really looked intimidated by the moment against the Patriots in a big game.
That is true, but he seems to have overcome a lot of that. He rose to the occasion in the Pittsburgh game, and he did struggle against the Patriots in the first half in Foxborough, but he came out with a pretty strong second half.
He did.
The thing that I look at with the Bills' offense is Singletary is going to have a decent game, a big game. The Texans' defense is not great.
Yeah,
they're not great in the rankings. They are not great against the run. I know they're getting J.J. Watt back, but the guy hasn't played in 2 months. I mean, come on. I know he's J.J. Watt.
I mean,
but
he's one guy.
Right.
You're right. This has been a very pedestrian Houston defense, and the Bills should be able to move the ball on this defense.
That the Bills, I think, as I said at the beginning, I think the Bills will rise to the moment. I think that their coaching staff has a good, solid grasp of what it takes to win in the playoffs, because McDermott has a lot of experience there, not as a head coach, but as an assistant. And I honestly think there is no body of work whatsoever for Bill O'Brien to be a successful playoff coach. And I think that more likely, if you're looking for a team that's kind of on a little bit of a decline now coming into the playoffs and has a little bit of a checkered past in the playoffs, I think it's Houston.
And I will say, watching the Week 17 games and tracking the Chiefs-Chargers game in Week 17, this was the matchup Bills fans were hoping for. I think most Bills fans wanted the Texans, especially over the Chiefs. But
if your choice is going on the road to play in Houston or going on the road to play in Arrowhead, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, this is the matchup we wanted as Bills fans. And we will see how it plays out in a few days' time when the NFL playoffs kick off. I'm going to stay faithful. I'm going to stay true to my promise that I made at the beginning of the season. I'm going to pick the Bills to beat Houston in this game. I'm kind of banking on the past that Houston will once again be a no-show for the playoffs. That's mostly what I'm banking on. But I like this defense. I like the defense. I think they can stack up against this high-powered Houston offense, and I don't really have that much confidence in the Houston defense to really stifle the Bills.
Well, maybe it's a little bit of a homer mentality. I'll be free to admit that. I've been a Bills fan for a long time, but I see the Bills winning this game too, and I'm banking that on the fact that they will have the best unit on the field on Saturday, and that's their defense.
It sure will be an interesting weekend of playoff games. A lot of intriguing matchups. Some more predictable than others, but should be a very entertaining weekend of football.
Are we going to make Super Bowl picks?
Oh yeah. Real quick, we're gonna make our picks for the who we think the two Super Bowl teams are going to be. On the NFC side, it's really a toss-up. I mean, other than Philadelphia, I could make a case for any one of those teams to get to the Super Bowl.
It's true.
I'm gonna go with New Orleans, though. I think the last two seasons of just absolutely devastating playoff exits are going to be fuel for them, and I think they're going to be a team on a mission, and they're going to be hard to stop, and they're finally going to break through this year.
Well, you stole my thunder, because I am also going to go with New Orleans. They are just humming on offense,
Yeah.
and Breeze is probably the best quarterback in the game right now, at least as far as throwing the ball. And I know they'll have to go on the road at some point, but that offense travels pretty well, and their defense is playing at a fairly high level. A lot of weapons, the ability to score a lot of points, and they seem to be really playing at their best right now.
For the AFC side, this one's less of a toss-up for me, but I could narrow down at least two or three teams that I think can definitely make it. I mean, it's really hard to pick against Baltimore, but I think the Chiefs are kind of in a situation similar to the Saints. Not so much to the same extent as New Orleans, but they too kind of got hosed by questionable officiating in last year's AFC Championship game. And I think Patrick Mahomes has quietly been having a very fantastic season. He's kind of been getting outshone by Lamar Jackson. If we're picking Final Four, I think it's hard to see how Baltimore and Kansas City are not the AFC Championship contenders by the end of the playoffs. Those two teams are playing really well, but Kansas City beat Baltimore earlier in the season, and I know they're different teams now, but I kind of like the Chiefs it's a bit of a dark horse pick for me. I feel like Baltimore's kind of the easy pick, and I want to go with the Chiefs here.
Well, I really hate to do this, but I also like the Chiefs.
Really?
Yeah, and I do it. The Baltimore strikes me as being a lot like Kansas City was last year. And I think Lamar Jackson probably still maybe needs a little bit of playoff seasoning, Mahomes got last year. I will say this, the Baltimore defense is better than Kansas City's.
Absolutely.
And if the two play, and I hope that they do play, because that's the game I really want to see, then that could be a difference. I'll pick Kansas City also. It's a little bit more tenuous for me. I don't feel as strongly about them as I do New Orleans in the other division, in the other conference. But and it wouldn't shock me to see Baltimore in there. And it also wouldn't shock me to see the Buffalo Bills in there.
Yeah, nope. So we both have the same Super Bowl picks. We have the Saints and the Chiefs gutting it out for the Lombardi Trophy on February 2nd. Let us know in the comments what your Super Bowl picks are, and who do you think is going to win on Wild Card Weekend. We'd love to know your opinions. And as always, have a blessed week. We'll see you in the next video, and have a happy new year.
Go
Bills.
Hoosiers.